Hey everyone, Chang here and welcome to my channel. This is the Bare Minimum Algebra series. Today we're going to talk about dividing integers. Now, like from, I guess you could say, kindergarten on, which is probably a little early, we realize that as we start learning more complex operations, the complex operations are always the one that causes more drama, are the ones that are a little more tedious than necessary. We have addition, then subtraction came along and it sucks compared to addition. You have multiplication, then you have division that comes along and it sucks compared to multiplication. Well, that's what happens with this as well. Now, out of all the different cases that I've talked about, this is the one that is a little more complex. There are 5 possible cases, 5 possible scenarios when you're dividing with integers. The first one is both numbers are positive. Second one, both numbers are negative. Third one number is positive and one number is negative. So in this case, just one number is negative and the other one is positive, right? So if they're not positive or negative, then they fall into 4th or 5th possible scenario. The 4th case is when the dividend is 0. The dividend is the number that's being divided by. So basically, for example, 0 divided by 5, 0 divided by 6, right? That number being divided by, right? That is your dividend. And of course, the divisor is the number that's dividing it, right? So basically, once again, with the example, 0 divided by 5, 5 is the divisor, whereas 0 is the dividend, right? Whereas if you have 2 divided by 3, for example, 2 is the dividend, 3 is the divisor. Basically, bottom number, top number. So let's go over every single one of these cases and how to just go about solving them. First case is always the most simple. Both numbers are positive. Guess what? This is not really focused on arithmetic. I do have videos on arithmetic, but basically when you have both numbers are positive, the rule is you just divide it like you would normally divide it in basic arithmetic, right? 8 divided by 4 is basically 2. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And of course, you can have situations where it doesn't always end up in a nice whole number, right? You can have a situation where it ends up as a nice fraction or decimal, depending on how you like it. The second case is equally as simplistic compared to all the other cases, is when both numbers are negative. Now, this is very similar to basically multiplication. When both numbers are negative, the key is that you just completely ignore the negative sign. So in this case, it's -8 divided by -4. All you have to do is just change it into positives. And then imagine just 8 divided by 4, which is once again a positive 2 or just 2, right? This one, same thing, -15 divided by -5. All you have to do is just change both number into positive at this point. Right? So now it's going to be just 15 divided by 5, which is going to be a lovely positive 3 or just 3. All right, case number 3, one of the number is negative and the other one is assumed to be positive. So here we have a -9 divided by 3 or 15 divided by -3. Now, this one is slightly more challenging, but not that bad. What you're going to do is you're going to ignore the negative sign first and divide like normal. Then in the end, you're just going to add the negative sign to the answer. So when you're learning subtraction, you learn to carry numbers. Why not just carry signs? So basically what happens is, all right, there's a negative and a positive. Let's put a negative sign right here. And then we're going to change this to a positive because now we're just going to ignore the fact that it was originally negative. 9 divided by 3, guess what? That's 3. So you just write your final answer 3 right here, and your answer is actually going to be a -3, right? Same thing with this one. Oh, there's a positive and a negative number, so all we have to do is we're going to change this to positive, but because we're doing that, let's just make sure we include that, carry the negative over, carry it. Man, I feel like I'm going to cause a lot more confusion, but hey, step by step, right? So basically you change this to positive because you're ignoring the fact that it was originally negative. You have a negative sign here, which is going to be a negative in your final answer. 15 divided by 3, 5. Final answer, -5. Simple as that. Once again, hopefully it doesn't get too confusing. Ignore the negative sign, divide like normal. Your final answer, put the negative sign there. There you have it. All right, so we have our fourth case. Dividend is 0. Basically, the number on top, or the number that's being divided by, is 0. Now, this one is one of the most simplistic way of going about it. Every time you see something like this where it's a 0 divided by some number, no matter what, positive or negative, doesn't matter unless it's divided by 0. That's a whole separate topic. Ignore that, right? 0 divided by 5, guess what the final answer is? 0, right? 0 divided by -6, guess what the final answer is? 0. Any number that is 0 divided by some number, right? Some positive number, some negative number, doesn't have to be integer actually, right? But since we're just talking about integer, divided by any integer, guess what? It's going to be 0. Very simple. All right, so our fifth and final case is when the divisor is 0. Basically, it doesn't matter what the front number, the top number, is. That number is being divided by 0. So 5 divided by 0 or -6 divided by 0 doesn't matter. The answer is actually always undefined. Undefined. And some people just undef. And so on and so forth, right? Shorthand because we're lazy. But basically is undefined all the way. Now here's an interesting story, just maybe you'll ingrain it because guess what? Stories are memorable. I actually had a buddy, me and him and several of us were in high school and we were learning basic Spanish. Now, in basic Spanish, they wanted us to first start off by learning the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I don't remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all that stuff, right? And then afterwards, they made very simplistic, very basic math problems. So you had 1 plus 1, and then you translate it to Spanish, and you complete the problem, 1 plus 2, so on and so forth. We did that with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Now, here's the funny part. Yes, when the dividend is 0, 0 divided by any number is 0. So we wrote that, we translated that, and then we basically wrote it in Spanish. And then when it came to the divisor 0, the Spanish teacher was insistent that basically the final answer is 0, which is false. A buddy of mine really had this wonderful idea in realizing that the Spanish teacher was wrong. Now, instead of just going to tell the Spanish teacher that, guess what? She was wrong, right? Any number divided by 0 is undefined, not 0. We're translating it wrong, whatever. Instead of just doing that, he decides to go and bring in our math teacher to prove, to clarify that she is indeed wrong. Now, of course, you bring in the math teacher who is also the head of the math department, come in and be like, that's not correct. Fine. All right. She accepts that. She changes that. But sad to say that she also had a very big ego. So her ego was, needless to say, extremely bruised in front of the whole class, corrected by the head of the math department that basically you're teaching the student basic arithmetic wrong. So she accepted that. She took it gracefully in front of the class. But for the remainder of the year, my buddy's life was a living hell, which sucks because basically you had to write stories and stuff in Spanish and all that stuff, and it ends up being subjective and you didn't do so well. So learn from my buddy. Yes, you may be correct at math, but be very careful on who you correct, because if they have a large ego and it most likely is not worth it, maybe just let them keep their ego. Right? Anyways, that's a fun story. Hopefully you remember. Divisor is 0. Then the answer is undefined. I'm sorry for my buddy, but you are absolutely correct. That, yes, it is undefined, it is not 0. Please don't make that mistake. Anyways, I might as well end it with making it even more simple. Here is basically an easy way for you to remember. Plus divided by plus is plus. Minus divided by minus is plus. Basically negative divided by negative. Positive divided by negative, or negative divided by positive. Both times are going to be negative. You have 0 divided by some number that is 0. I should probably put an equal sign there. Right? And the number divided by 0 is undefined. So there's all your potential possible scenario. 1, 2, technically 3, 4, and 5. So there you have it. That is dividing integers. Once again, basically, both numbers positive, always going to be positive. Both number negative, always going to be positive. Right? In those cases, the first one, just divide like normal. The second one, ignore all the negative signs, divide like normal. The third one is when one of the number is negative and the other one is positive. In that case, you ignore the negative sign, divide the numbers like they're two positive numbers. However, in the end, the answer, make sure you add a negative sign on it. So most likely it's going to be a negative number. Well, actually, not most likely, all the time. It's going to be a negative number, right? And then the fourth case, when it's a 0 divided by some number, the answer is always going to be 0. And the other way around, for the fifth case, if it's a number divided by 0, the answer is always going to be undefined. So there you have it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.